I'd like to call the meeting to order. Before we start on the agenda, just a couple of quick announcements. First, I'd like to express our condolences to our Deputy Mayor, Mark Widner, and his wife, Terry, for the passing of Terry's brother, Dave Underhill. So great member of our community. He will be missed. Also, greetings from Councillor Cerna. So he wanted everybody to know that he's doing well. So he did suffer a significant health setback, shall we say, but he is recovering very well, progressing very well, and he will be back with us as soon as he can. So, but he wanted everybody to know he's fine. All right. So it's always nice to have good news. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we'll proceed with the approval of our previous minutes. Resolution.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April 20th, 2023 be adopted as printed and circulated.
Mover and seconder. Lewis, Leach. Any errors or omissions? Any changes? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. This evening, we have a delegation from the Police Services Board. Welcome, everyone, all members of the board. I'll let you introduce yourselves as we go, and I want to welcome our presenters as well as members of the board. Welcome to Mile High Township.
Staff Sergeant Tyler Holmes from the Elgin County OPP Detachment.
Dave Jenkins, Chair of the Police Services Board.
Sure, I will try that again. Carolyn Cron, Secretary Administrator of the Police Services Board.
Welcome. I think you're here for the annual report, so over to you.
Thank you. Inspector Lucas sends his regrets. He just was taken away for an unrelated matter, but we'll be happy to present the 2022 annual report on his behalf. There's obviously a message from him, but I'll just kind of briefly summarize for you. But you know, in 2022, Elgin officers and administrative staff worked in partnership with numerous stakeholders, partners, community groups, and services throughout the year to help achieve our organizational commitments. Throughout the year, several significant provincial protests created unique and unprecedented challenges, which caused us to reflect and adjust how we conducted our daily operations. Additionally, the completion of an amalgamation between the Elgin OPP and the Chatham-Kent OPP into one detachment presented some other unique challenges that we continue to work together to strengthen our commitment to the community. In 2022, the policing priorities that we're focused on achieved the key commitments from our 2020 to 2022 detachment action plan, which included crime prevention, increased traffic and public safety on our roadways, waterways, and trails, and enhanced relationships with our municipalities, policing partners, and local community supports and resources. As we prepare our 2023 detachment action plan, we will build upon our past successes while incorporating organizational commitments with local community priorities to reflect a responsive and inclusive service delivery model. On the next slide, you'll just see kind of the organizational structure. And as I mentioned, you know, as a result of the amalgamation, we've brought over a significant number of members, which kind of has you know, enhanced our ability to respond to community concerns. As with many other volunteer agencies, our auxiliary unit in 2022, you know, experienced some challenges with staffing. We had you know, several members who just stopped participating as a result of not being able to assist throughout COVID, and then you know, the success stories from that is several of them were also hired as full-time police officers. So there's lots of positive that come out of that. We're currently working, with our community and with, some surrounding detachments. To try to bolster those numbers up and see if we can get some more volunteers, but we still did some great things. You can see them participating at the air show and, pulling the plane, and some different awards that were handed out. As discussed with the 2020 to 2022 action plan, I won't go over everything again, but the three priorities were crime, traffic, and then community partnerships, which included our mental health response team, or our MCERT, in partnership with the Almer Police. And then finalizing a transfer of care protocol with St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital, which has been done. For our crime management plan, we have a comprehensive plan that is administered through the leadership of our regional detective sergeant. The crime unit currently includes 5 detectives, and they're assigned to major case investigations that take place throughout the county, and 3 other detectives that are assigned to our community street crime unit, and they deal with street level property crime, street level drugs, and doing those investigations and recovery of property through judicial authorizations and warrants. Doing excellent work, and they're actually teamed up in partnership with the Middlesex County Community Street Crime Unit. So there's 6 of them in total. Excuse me. Our traffic management strategy. We've developed a traffic management strategy with the goal of reducing motor vehicle collisions, specifically those that result in personal injury or death. Our focus in 2022 continued to be enforcement and education, surrounding aggressive driving, impaired driving, seatbelt use, and distracted driving. The OPP's big 4 causal factors of collisions across the province. We continue to have a traffic management unit, which consists of 3 members that work full-time in responding to the community concerns, speeding, those types of things. One area where we also had some struggles as a result of volunteerism was community policing committees, as you're probably aware. That's something that's on the forefront of our mind to try to work to improve, in 2023 and beyond. A lot of those committees just didn't meet in 2022. A lot of good value from them, but just difficulty getting them back together in meetings. So okay, I'll kind of probably go down a few slides. Just kind of talks about those things. We have a full-time community safety officer, Brett Fair, who's doing an excellent job. Probably have more pictures because he's kind of started a photo of the month, sort of a competition at the detachment now. So we're getting a lot more photos for next year's report. But he's doing a great job out in the community and connecting, with all of those resources. So some other things that took place in 2022. Once again, on a little bit of a lower end scale, but hoping to bolster those this year. ATV patrols, we actually were able to successfully obtain 2 ATVs for the detachment full-time later kind of in 2022 last year. So they'll be out this year wherever the community may need them. So, we're looking for those concerns to come in. And then obviously marine patrols with the amalgamation with Chatham, we actually have the access to 2 boats now. We can get either one of them in the water for any emergency or just for community events, all of those types of things. So lots of that took place in 2022. I'll give a little brief snapshot. It looks like we responded to a bunch of calls in Lake Erie, and then because of the amalgamation, so we went over to Lake St. Clair and the Detroit River as well. Some snapshots from the community street crime unit. Once again, I'm not going to read them verbatim, but lots of great work in 2022. They investigated 146 occurrences and executed 133 judicial warrants, where they laid charges on 104 people, which resulted in 675 overall charges in 2022. Countless hours of investigative expertise from them, and like I said, they're paired up with Middlesex and kind of bouncing between the 2 locations, but lots of great work within the county of Elgin from them. And as you kind of scroll through and look at some of them, you can see there's a lot of multi-jurisdictional thefts that are taking place between here and Oxford, here and Huron, people traveling through the area. It's actually becoming more and more. We're seizing lots of firearms and ammunition, CDSA vehicles, things that are from break and enters, power tools, batteries, chargers, shoes. Kind of a brief snapshot of calls for service, a couple more pages down there. 2022, we actually saw a significant increase in calls for service. I apologize, I don't, it was the last minute to present today. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it could be criminal record checks kind of near the end. There was a lot of them that were coming in. So that off the top of my head would be somewhere where we would have seen a significant increase. And now all of those now have gone online, so they don't actually come through the detachment, so they're not generated as a call for service anymore. But that just started kind of in the middle of the year. Calls for service by zone, you can see them there by municipality. One of our main big priorities is traffic safety, as discussed. We did 690 ride checks in 2022, which is a substantial number. Several of them done through the ride grant funding stream, which Elgin County gets every fiscal year, but also just officers doing proactive ride checks throughout the communities. We actually seen an increase in motor vehicle collisions in 2022 with a total of 1,111. I can say that part of that is as a result of our collision reporting center. So in the past, we would only investigate collisions that took place within the county. With the collision reporting center, anybody can report a collision from anywhere in the province. So you may, if they were traveling somewhere and they ended up here, then we would still take that report. So the numbers have gone up, but it jumped by almost 300. There would be no other rationale for it. So. There's just a breakdown of collisions. So year to date, actually our fatal collisions went down significantly in 2022. As you can see there, the personal injury collisions went up by 43%, and the property damage, which would be the ones that were reported to the collision reporting center, also increased. Excuse me. We actually had no fatal collisions in 2022 that were related to alcohol, which is a positive for us. And there's just some graphs to show, or some charts to show kind of the busier months. A lot of our collisions for property damage near the end of the year, which is when the animals are on the move. Animal collisions continue to be the highest number of collisions that take place in Elgin County. Crime prevention. So a large component goal is the proactive education provided through media outlets, officer visibility, and adherence to the principles of intelligence-led policing. We utilize analytics from our regional intelligence analysts, our operational analyst, and identify areas of concern, assign officers to do patrols in those areas, whether it's related to mischiefs, property, people breaking into vehicles, cars, houses, those types of things. Once again, the community street crime unit really plays a strong role in all of that information gathering and providing it to the front line. Some graphs on our violent crime, significant decreases in most of the areas actually across the board, whether it's murders, attempted murder, nothing. Sexual assaults drastically down in 2022, assaults down a little bit. Most of those would take place in our beach communities. And then just other crimes against people, obviously down 11% as well. And then property crime, there's kind of a back and forth. It's, break and enters were fairly consistent from the year before. Thefts increased. Crimes of opportunity, obviously, as people are coming out more post-COVID, then there's more opportunity for crimes to take place. Frauds up 25% in 2022. Once again, we attribute that currently to a robust media campaign and encouraging people to report frauds through the police. So, and obviously a lot more frauds are taking place because of the same thing. There's lots of opportunity. Electronic crime, e-crimes are increasing significantly. Drug crime, no changes in those specific categories from 2021 to 2022. In 2022, I believe there was a change in the kind of the makeup of the Crime Stoppers program in St. Thomas and Elgin. It used to be connected to Middlesex, and now it's just St. Thomas, Elgin, Elmer. You want me to talk about the billing report? Everybody's pretty familiar with kind of how that works. Calls for service in the next chart. Kind of all the different offenses, the time of day that they take place. Once again, as discussed in 2022, criminal record checks transitioned to an online application, so they're no longer completed. And then we talked about the RIDE program already. A couple of photos of us working with our municipal agencies to showcase the work that we did there. And then some community events that the inspector attended and participated in 2022 as well. Barring any questions, that's the inspector's 2022 annual report.
Thank you so much. I don't know the contents of the entire presentation. Does it make more sense to take some questions now or questions now on the annual report? Members of council? Councilor Leach.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So if we wanted to have a presence at a public event, like I'm an Optimus member, have you out to the Optimus breakfast, how would we go about doing something like that, or like any other event where there'd be a lot of kids?
Sure. Are you just looking for officer presence in general, or you want somebody from command staff?
Like that too, since I understand that you haven't been able to be in schools,
Sure.
to be that presence so that kids are aware of who you are and what you do
Yeah.
for them.
So our media officer, Constable Brett Fair, would be the person to be in touch with. And if you call the office, you could ask for myself or ask for him. We could get you in touch with him. He loves community events. He's great with kids, so he would be happy to attend any of those events.
Any other questions? Councilor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's more of a comment than a question. I'm just happy to see that Malahide wasn't punching above its weight in the percentage of offenses for the county. That's nice to see. So that's good.
Something might come up later as we digest, but I'm happy to proceed with Mr. Jenkins' part of the presentation. And thank you again, Sergeant.
Thank you.
It's always nice to have staff that can help you out on these electronic things. Is it? Okay. Keep pulling, Scott, keep pulling. You're a mechanic, you can fix it. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you this evening. I'm Dave Jenkins. On the 30th of January, I became chair of the Elgin Group Police Services Board. The Police Services Board consists of 5 members. 3 of them are municipally appointed and 2 of them are provincially appointed. And I'm pleased to introduce members of the Elgin Group Police Services Board who are here this evening. And I'll ask Ida to stand. Ida McCollum represents West Elgin, Dutton Dunwich, and South Hold. And Ida has served as vice chair of the board in the past and has served on the board for a number of years and is active in her communities there. And we certainly appreciate her involvement. Central Elgin, Malahide, and Bayham have always or require a council member to sit on the board. Malahide and Bayham alternate their board member, and we are pleased to have this year as a board member the mayor of Malahide, Dominique Jaguer, and who will represent both Malahide and Bayham at that time. Also in Central Elgin, the mayor, Andrew Sloan, is their representative on the board, and Andrew is just brand new to the board as well. Our vice chair is Trudy Canellis, sorry. Trudy is from Southold and is also active on the Southold Community Policing Committee. And it's great working with the entire board. And Trudy is a provincial appointee to the board. I also am a provincial government appointee and am from Malahide, or originally South Dorchester. Sorry. We're kind of proud of that little part of the world. And I've served on the board for over 2 years. And as I say, was elected in January. One of the issues and one of the first issues we were dealing with outside of our venue, but still important to us on the board, is the situation of bail reform. And the very first meeting when I became chair, we stood in silent remembrance and respect for Constable Greg Perchola of Haldeman, who was murdered. And that whole situation, I'm a dad with a son of almost that age. You think of those sorts of things, and for his family, who were immigrants from, as I understand, from Russia. And he was quite a community leader as well. But it got us talking about bail reform. And I believe all the municipalities in Elgin have received a letter from us about that. That letter has also gone on to our MPP, Rob Flack, to our MP, Karen Vecchio, and we forwarded as well to the representatives, or those Minister of Justice, I believe, and to the Prime Minister as well. But as chairman of the board, I'm deeply concerned about the state of Canada's catch and release bail system, which has led to a public safety crisis. We recently joined a nationwide demand for changes to the criminal code and other federal legislation related to the bail system. This call for reform comes in response to the tragic shooting death of Constable Greg Perchola, who was killed by an individual on bail for firearm offenses with a lifetime ban on owning guns and a warrant also out for their arrest. We've seen numerous repeat offenders in our area, some with having up to 12 separate interactions with the police and judicial system. These offenders have committed significant criminal offenses, including robbery, assault, break and enter, sexual assault, and domestic violence related offenses. Moreover, many of these individuals have demonstrated previous violence, and monitoring them out on bail with conditions can be a drain on our police services and resources. Earlier this year, we issued a press release to help raise awareness in the community on this important issue. We believe that the legislative reform is needed to address the bail process with respect to violent repeat offenders and firearm charges. And we are committed to working with our justice system to ensure that we have a safe community for all. If you have any questions about bail reform or any other police services board matters, don't hesitate to reach out. I would like to hand things over to Carolyn Cron, who will be sharing an update on our Community Safety and Policing Act. Carolyn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just have a quick update today on the Community Safety and Policing Act. But before I do, I'll provide a little bit of background on the the current Policing Act. So it's the Police Services Act and its regulations. So this act oversees how police services boards govern or oversee policing in the community. So the Police Services Board works with local citizens and organizations to ensure that the communities receive the policing that they need. And in March 2019, the province passed the Comprehensive Ontario Police Services Act and established the Community Safety and Policing Act, which once in force will repeal the Police Services Act. So the Community Safety and Policing Act seeks to provide municipalities receiving OPP policing with greater civilian governance of police by having the opportunity to present their local perspectives, needs, and priorities. So under the new Police Services Act, Section 10 OPP agreements and Section 10 boards will be dissolved, and an OPP detachment board will be established in place of the current Police Services Board. So Section 10 municipalities were required to submit a proposal indicating their preferred Police Services Board composition, and the Secretary Administrator submitted an application in June of 2021 to the ministry. We are still waiting to hear back from them on whether or not our submission was approved. I do understand some municipalities have started to hear back, so we anticipate hearing from the ministry soon. And we did submit an application for a status quo board, and that's the same composition that the chair presented to you earlier. So as the next steps, once we hear back from the ministry and once the Community Safety and Policing Act is enforced or put into force, then the next step will be to establish the new OPP detachment board. This will involve all the municipalities passing bylaws, and then new members will need to be appointed to the OPP detachment board. At that time, we'll also review the board budget and review board member compensation. This was a request that we received earlier when we visited the municipalities. So again, we anticipate that this will happen later this year, but we will keep you updated. And if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. Questions from members of council or comments? No news is good news, or like no comments is is good news. And yeah, I think on behalf of council and our constituents, we thank you. We thank the board for your service, but also the OPP. I think everyone is really satisfied with the level of service we are provided with. We're fortunate that we have fewer concerns. I think the concern we hear the most, as you know, is speed enforcement on our wonderful roads. So we'll look forward to working with you on that and continuing to work with you on that, because it continues to be a concern. It's not going away. It almost seems to be getting worse in some spots. So we'll work closely with you on that, but otherwise, thank you so much for your service. May I have the resolution to receive the report?
That the OPP annual report presentation and Police Services Board presentation be received.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Lewis, Councillor Leach, all in favor? And that's carried. Next on our agenda, we have another presentation, this time from Service Line Warranties, to give us a overview of our partnership. Do we have Mr. Mode on the line, or online, I should say?
You do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can everyone
can.
hear me? Oh, perfect.
We can. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm just going to quickly share my screen. I have a presentation to go over. Just give me one moment while I load that up. Let me know when you can see it.
We're good.
We're good. Perfect. Thank you very much. So yes, my name is Adam Modi. I am a partnership manager at SLWC, Service Line Warranties of Canada. I've been with the company for about a year and a half, and I'm the day-to-day contact for our partners across Canada. I do appreciate you giving me this time to provide this update and overview of the Service Line Warranty Program. We've been fortunate to have been working with and offering this program to residents, Malahide residents, since 2017. I'm really here today because this program has been available for a number of years now, and I just want to make sure that everyone on council has a full understanding of the program and an opportunity to ask any questions. So what I'll be doing quickly is just providing an overview of who we are, why Malahide is partnered with us, how the program works, the benefits of the township and residents, and of course, as I mentioned, take any questions that anyone may have. So I'll just start with a kind of quick overview of who we are. So the Service Line Warranty Program originally launched in Hamilton, Ontario in 2014 after responding to an RFP by them. We were then invited by AMO Local Authority Services to offer our program to their other members, and we're now partnered with over 70 municipalities across Ontario and Alberta. And across North America, we work with over 1,100 municipalities and serve over 4.8 million homeowners. Our management team is locally based in Ontario, and we have employees across the GTA and Quebec, and I myself am located in Mississauga. Our parent company, HomeServe, was recently acquired by Brookfield Infrastructure Partners, a Canadian-based asset management company. And as I mentioned, we have been partnered with Malahide since 2017, and the program officially launched sometime in the beginning of 2018. So why do municipalities partner with us? Well, many municipalities find that homeowners are typically not aware of the responsibilities for service lines on their private property. In the event of an issue or failure, it's not uncommon for them to call up their municipal offices, only to find out that they're on their own for the repairs, and from there need to determine if they have any coverage or not, and finally to coordinate the repairs themselves. The partnership with SLWC helps inform residents of these responsibilities for service lines on private property, typically through mailings sent out and paid for by SLWC, and then provides them with the option to sign up for voluntary warranty plans offered by Service Line Warranties if a resident is interested in being financially protected from service line issue or failure. Our program operates as a warranty on the service lines themselves, and in the event of a failure, works to restore the lines back to operational status by arranging for and paying the contractors directly up to a particular plan's benefit amount. Typically, basic homeowner policies will not cover the lines themselves, but rather cover any damage caused by the failure. And while some insurance providers may offer add-on coverage, not all do. So our plans do help ensure everyone who may be interested in coverage are able to obtain some, as well as provide options when other coverage may be available. Overall, optional plans from us can help protect homeowners from potentially expensive repairs to the service lines, provide them with the convenience of not having to find and vet their own contractors, and of course encourages residents to deal with any leaks or backups quickly. We work with our municipal partners to communicate the program through really the channels most appropriate for the residents, and ones that help make sure anyone who may be interested in this program can find information on it. Once residents have received our mailings or other communications, or otherwise learned about the program and the responsibility and had a chance to review it, they're free to make an informed decision relating to their external water and sewer service lines. In fact, a 2021 survey conducted on behalf of SLWC noted that 66% of homeowners believe they were not responsible for damaged water and sewer lines on private property, which does highlight the need to inform residents while also making sure a solution is available to them. Some of our most recent partners said they believe it was closer to 90% in some of their communities. So we partner directly with municipalities to offer this program to residents. It's not something that is available in places where we have not entered into an agreement. The agreement does allow us to promote the program to homeowners, including the use of the municipality's logo, which helps lend credibility to the information, helps validate the legitimacy of the content, as well as encourages residents to review the material. Overall, the partnership helps ensure residents can really trust the information they receive, and then from there learn about their responsibilities for their external lines, and then weigh the benefits of the optional plans we offer. Our partnership really means that we're able to effectively get our information out to residents, and can therefore offer our plans at affordable rates, which make this a viable option for interested homeowners. We're typically not a company most residents would have heard of, and we really just want to make sure that people can, again, trust this information, will not consider it a scam or illegitimate. All material we send does indicate that our plans are optional and voluntary, that the township does not administer or run the program, and of course, no public funds are used to run the program or communicate it. Our communications arm residents with information on their service line responsibility, and from there, they're free to sign up for one of our plans, review their options with their existing insurance provider, or they may choose to take no action at all, but they still benefit from the information that they receive. So overall, we say we offer the following benefits to residents, municipalities. The first being that educational awareness campaign done at no cost to municipality. Again, these lines are often out of sight and out of mind until an emergency arises. So informing residents ahead of time really does allow them to properly prepare in the case of an emergency. We do not send materials to residents without review and approval from staff, so you can be confident in the material we do send. We also do not market door to door over the phone, and we work with the township to promote the program in ways that everyone can agree upon. Our plans include thawing of frozen lines. We have a repair hotline available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, including holidays. So people can always get a hold of us when they potentially have an issue. We arrange for the contractor directly, which alleviates the need for residents to plan and find and vet their own. If a resident wishes to cancel a plan they're on, it is relatively easy. There's no long-term commitments and people can cancel with 30 days notice. Plan pricing does not increase when a resident makes a claim, and they can make multiple claims a year, each with applicable benefit amount. We're legally liable for any work completed by our contractors, which helps protect the township from liability due to work on the shared service lines. And finally, all work completed on one of our programs is guaranteed by a 1-year guarantee, so people can be confident in the work that's completed through one of our contractors. I just want to take a moment to make sure you're aware of our CARES program. So CARES is an initiative that we've set up to help residents in need. Basically, if a resident in one of our partner communities is faced with a service line issue and is unable to pay for the repairs, then they can apply for assistance from us. If approved, we'll be able to tap into our network of contracts to help get that resident up and running again. The program is open to all residents and municipalities partner with SLWC and is aimed towards low-income households who currently do not have any form of coverage and otherwise could not afford their repairs. Unfortunately, know many of these times residents will call into the municipality looking for help, and unfortunately may not even realize that they were going to be responsible for these repairs themselves. In these cases, there's not much the township can really do since it is a private side matter, but we do hope that this program can really make an impact in the communities that we serve. So if anyone on council or staff becomes aware of anyone in a particular situation like this, then they can reach out to me directly about the program. We also have an online application that residents can use as well. And then lastly, since launching in early 2018, I believe we've conducted about 3 mailing campaigns to Malahide residents. A total of 58 residents have signed up or enrolled in the program, which I'm happy to say is actually a 383% increase from where we were in fall of 2021 when I started. While overall enrollment in the program is affected by many factors, including how long we've been partnered and the amount of communications we've done for the program, we're currently averaging around 2.5% of residents in our partner communities having signed up for a plan. On Malahide, we're averaging around 1.86 at the moment. Of course, service lines are generally out of sight and out of mind, and unfortunately, homeowners' responsibility and the availability of our plans are also not top of mind unless we're actively communicating and discussing them. So we're more than happy to work with you to promote the program in ways that make the most sense for you and your residents and allow them to easily find information on our program and of course help them learn about their service line responsibility. In fact, we're doing our spring campaigns now with our partners, and we'd love for you to be able to participate in them. The program is really designed to be a long-term partnership, given that service lines are an essential component of the home and continue to age, and coverage is not always available to all homeowners. So I thank you for your time, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to provide this update on the program, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Councillor Leach.
Through you, Madam Chairperson. When service line finds contractors, how do they go about that for each local area?
So there's a couple different ways that we can find contractors. So local contractors are able to apply directly to us to be part of our network. Some of our partners will recommend contractors they work with if they have any that they've worked with or that they feel would be interested in joining the program. If we don't have, when we start the program or when we first launch, if we don't have anyone that's already available to service an area such as a neighboring community where that contractor may be able to participate, then we have a contractor team who would use the postal code footprint of your area to search out and vet contractors and then contact them, and if interested, kind of walk through our vetting and I guess overall recruitment process, including confirming trade lines, trade licenses, insurance, things like that.
Thank you. And when a homeowner makes a call, where's that call getting picked up? Like, is
So our
it in Toronto? Is it in, is it somewhere close by?
So our kind of main headquarters for North America is in the US, and that's where our large call center is, or our customer care center. It's a very technically sophisticated, I want to say, process that works all across North America for all our partner communities. We also have a call center and a team out in the East to handle French language calls.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, the resolution,
That the service line warranties program presentation from Adam Mode be received.
mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson, Counselor Leach, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
providing us an update and increasing awareness of your program. Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, reports of departments. The first report is Fire and Emergency Services, the quarterly report. Our Director of Emergency Services is attending a training this evening, so I believe CEO Betteridge, you're filling in.
Yes, thank you. So Chief Spores at the Ontario Association of Fire Chiefs, so sends his regrets. So I'll be presenting his quarterly report. I will go through it with some highlights. So the fire service responded to 65 incidents during Q1. It was largely evenly split between the north and south stations, 30 in the north, 35 in the south. Moving on to fire event losses and saves. There were 5 fires with a combined estimated total dollar value of $24,500 and a total estimated dollar saved of $2,740,000. 3 of these were large dollar saves, including 2 single-family homes and a lumber mill facility. And that was as a result of quick and effective responses with the fire department's well-equipped and trained firefighters. Moving on to fire prevention, the team will be working with Terrace Lodge every Wednesday in June to assist with different areas of fire safety with the staff and residents. And the fire team will be assisting with conducting a code red drill, fire extinguisher training, and a general prevention gathering on the last Wednesday. Onto the Ontario Police College Police Cadet Training. This was the first training that the fire service had provided at the OPC since the pandemic, and there are more training sessions scheduled. Moving on to aid service, mutual aid. The fire service was requested 7 times for mutual aid assistance. Elgin County Mutual Aid continues to have significant positive impact on firefighting capabilities and the handling of large-scale incidents within the county and municipality. The service will continue to work closely with these partners. 2 significant assists in the town of Elmer allowed losses to be lowered in the downtown core and at the Elgin Innovation Center. So 40 of our firefighters were aiding with the downtown fire and 23 assisted with the Elgin Innovation Center fire. Under public education and awareness, pamphlets on ice jam flooding were distributed to citizens of Port Bruce, and with the pamphlets, so too signs were posted along the beach and pier to warn of dangers of walking on ice. Those are pictured in Chief Spores' report, and that will be reinstalled during the winter months every year. The fire department continues to increase the amount of weather alerts and emergency awareness education on social media and also during our prevention events. Lastly, on Chief Spores' reports is training and workshops. Malahide will be hosting the Emergency Management Ontario Senior and Elected Officials Workshop, or the SEOW, tentatively in the beginning of June. This workshop has been redesigned to provide elected officials a succinct introduction to emergency management at the municipal level. With that, that concludes Jeff's report. I will try my best to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? Councillor Leach.
I'd like to congratulate Chief Spoor on such a good job, essentially, and all our volunteers who are trained to an extensive level to be able to offer such great assistance in our own community, but also others.
Anyone else? Yeah, I think I'd like to echo that. During this quarter, there were a number of significant events, including the downtown fire. So perhaps at the next meeting, when Chief Spoor is with us, I would love to hear a bit more of our involvement and the great work we were able to contribute and to minimize the damage. So we'll bookmark that for when he's here to speak to that. So if there are no further comments, the resolution, please.
That report number F 23-03 entitled Emergency Services Activity Report Quarterly Report, January to March, be received.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson, Counselor Glinski, all in favor? And that's carried. The next report is from our Director of Public Works, tender results, guide rail installation. Director Sweetland, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, this first report is for the tender award for phase 2 of 8 of the phased-in approach to guide rail replacements from the adopted road safety audit. In total, 3 tenders were received, and staff are recommending an award to the low bidder, being Royal Fence Limited. I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have.
Questions or comments? Counselor Leach?
To you, Madam Mayor. What type of guardrails are being installed?
It's through you, Your Worship. All the guide rails that will be installed are typical steel beam guide rails. The post and cable are no longer an adequate undertaking that Ontario provincial standards would allow. So we go with the steel beam, which is the new standard.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? Counselor Lewis?
Through Your Worship, to Matt, just thank you for a quick turnover. Greatly appreciated. There was eyes on this one.
There are no, Counselor Wilson?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Royal Fence, it's nice that that's the local and the low bid. And I completely agree with awarding the tender to that, okay? I have a hypothetical question, which is, sorry about that, but say we had the same places from the same locations, but number 2 was from Springfield. And a business of the size that would be capable of doing this sort of work would be paying taxes in the township. And the difference of less than $2,000. Do we have any leeway to go with the second bidder? And to support a more local business when they actually pay township taxes? What is our discretion on something like this? I know that no one's going to argue about this. It's going to go to the low bidder and they're the most local people bidding. Great. But what if? Because for less than $2,000, I'd rather give the contract to someone that actually pays taxes in this township. So I'm just wondering what our leeway is there.
Would anyone wish to comment from staff?
Yeah.
Cedar Bedridge?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. So the municipal act is quite clear and regulates how municipalities can procure any service for that matter. If every municipality only procured any sort of service, it would sort of eliminate or sort of harm commerce and business for that matter. So through, many years of municipalities looking for work and purchasing work and services, it's resulted in a municipal act that's quite regulatory about what we can and can't do. Perhaps if Treasurer Boylan or Matt has any further comments, but we're simply going in accordance with the municipal act and the township's procurement policy.
Director Boylan.
Yeah, so legislatively, we have what's called a duty to treat all bidders fairly that would preclude us from being able to award based on locality. In addition, I believe this was under or over $100,000, right? So that would fall within the Canada Free Trade Agreement, which also specifically states you can't award based on locality as well. So we're kind of double covered on that one, I suppose. But yeah, in the instance of a tender, you're awarding to the low price. It's basically as simple as that. If there's other evaluative criteria that we want to consider, we would package it as part of an RFP.
Thank you for those clarifications. I appreciate the sentiment, and there are rules. If there are no further comments or questions, resolution.
The report number PW 23-29 entitled Tender Results Guardrail Installation be received, and that the guide rail installation contract be awarded to Royal Fence Limited of Dorchester, Ontario, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to enter into an agreement with Royal Fence Limited of Dorchester, Ontario for the purpose of the supply and installation of steel beam guide rails.
Mover and seconder. Council Lewis, Councillor Glinski, all in favor? Carried. The next report, Director Sweetland.
Yes, through your worship. This report relates to the in-place multi-year contract for center line painting, which was awarded last year. In the contract, the successful proponent may request a CPI adjustment to the contract rate. Such request was anticipated in the 2023 budget, and that request was made by the contractors. So staff are recommending that council accept such request.
Comments or questions? Clerk Adams.
Your resolution has an option to state.
Maintenance activity direction.
Yeah. That report number PW 23-31 entitled Centerline Painting Contract Extension be received, and that Township Council authorize the requested price increase to $6.61 per liter of centerline painting as detailed in the multi-year centerline painting contract.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Leach, Councillor Wilson, all in favor? That's carried. And one more report, please, Director Sweetland, the request for improvements, Summers #3 drain.
Yes, through your worship, this report is for an improvement request received for this drain, and staff are recommending Spree Associates are appointed to prepare the required engineer's report.
Comments or questions? Seeing none, Clerk Adams.
That report number PW 23-30 entitled Request for Improvement Summers #3 Drain be received, and that council proceed with this matter and appoint George Verreken of Spree Associates to prepare an engineer's report for this petition pursuant to section 78 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Lewis, Councillor Wilson, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Sweetland. Moving on to our Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer, Director Boylan, your first report on 2022 cash in lieu of Parkland.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report summarizes our cash in lieu of parkland funding for the year as required under the Planning Act. There were no collections in 2022 and the township's cash in lieu balance for the year closes at nearly $21,000. As noted in the report, it appears the township hasn't been consistently enforcing this bylaw based on the absence of collection since 2015. So administration is now ensuring that the existing bylaw is being enforced and will consider future updates to the bylaw as required. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councillor Leach.
To you, Madam Mayor. Where was this development that provided the cash in lieu?
CO Bedridge.
Thank you. So being a planner by profession, the Planning Act allows municipalities to pass a cash in lieu or a parklands dedication bylaw. That's where if development is happening, municipalities can either acquire physical land for park purposes or cash in lieu. Most municipalities have those bylaws in place. Everywhere I've worked previously has had a parkland dedication bylaw. Since coming here in 2020 and working with the township on various matters, it was because it wasn't a part of a process, it was assumed that the municipality did not have a parkland dedication bylaw. But now, since that it's been found and we know that one exists, so to clarify, it was assumed that township council has never passed a bylaw or never had a bylaw in place, or maybe even considered one and decided that one was not necessary. So from a planning perspective, it is I would advise that it's beneficial to the community to have a parkland dedication bylaw. So now that it is known to exist and moving forward. So what's best is there have been some consultations. We've seen some planning applications, some severances, some plans of subdivisions that are sort of in the proposal discussion. So they've been advised that yes, there will be a requirement for council to exercise the bylaw and acquire either it's mostly cash in lieu that a municipality would acquire. So I hope that clarifies your question.
Where was the development?
Okay. So the bylaw applies to any development. So if a
Okay.
new lot is being created, it's typically any new lot. Surplus farmhouse severances are exempt from it because the retained farmland isn't allowed a house that would benefit from parkland. So it's most severances where a dwelling is going to, a house unit is going to be created.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Glinsky.
Madam Mayor, as discussed at the time that we talked about this, it pertained to subdivisions, not individual lots. Now either miss something or just another money grab. Parklands should be developed in subdivisions where you have clusters of homes that their children and adults can make use of, which they cannot on an individual lot. And that's why it hasn't been enforced. And I hate to see why all of a sudden this is coming to be now, since I can't think of a better way to discourage housing than something like this, along with economic development, which to the tune of $633,951 in development charges. All these things discourage people from building. And I know they are being discouraged because I talk to them every now and again. My point is, I don't think we should jump on the individual lots. It should be just as it was originally discussed, subdivisions. And that was strenuously pointed out at that time, because I was on council at that time, and I do remember pointing that out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glinsky, for providing some of the background. CO Betteridge, do you want to comment, or is that something we could come back to just to bring back the bylaw when it was passed? And to see if that intent, as described by Councilor Glinski, was indeed captured, just to confirm and to clarify. Would that be reasonable?
Through your worship, if you wouldn't mind, I can address the comment right now to save some staff time. So the bylaw was attached to the staff report. Section 1.1, quote, development or redevelopment for the purposes of this bylaw shall include all applications for severance, either by consent or exemption from part law control, and lands making application for building permit subject to site plan control. Councillor Glinski's comments are, I mean, whether a lot that results in a household or a dwelling unit is created through consent or subdivision, still results in a household that would benefit from parkland, whether they are in a cluster or not. To suggest that a house that's not in a cluster wouldn't use parkland, I don't know if I support that comment, but if council deems appropriate to amend the bylaw, that's at council's discretion.
Any further comments? Councilor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not gonna be building a house anytime soon, but I know that we go into Springfield and use the parks and skate parks and stuff fairly regularly. My kids aren't huge thrashers or anything, wanting to go out and skateboarding every night, but it's pretty neat that there's something there that they can use. And you know, I understand that if it is a big enough subdivision, you don't want the developer just to eat and run. It's like, look after what you've built here, but on an individual basis, those clusters of parks and, you know, Port Bruce, Springfield, and Lyons, if someone's got to pay a little bit for that, I don't see a problem with how it is. If it's subdivisions, I think I'd rather see parkland enforced than cash in lieu. But picking up a little bit here and there for parks and more built up areas where residents can go to, I don't want to change the bylaw. I didn't know it existed either, but here we are.
Okay, so I'll recommend that for this evening, we just receive the report, and if there's further discussion or something to be reviewed at a later date, we can consider that another time. So if there are no other comments or questions, I'll entertain the resolution.
That report number FIN 23-8 titled 2022 Cash in lieu of Parkland be received.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Leach, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. The next report, Director Boylan on 2022 development charges, please.
Thank you. So this is another required report, this one being under the Development Charges Act. So I brought forward a statement which summarizes the township's 2022 development charges. So to summarize the report, we opened with a balance of nearly 632,000, collected about 252,000, which is quite a high year for us. We accrued interest on our opening reserve balance in the amount of $8,200, and then we applied those funds in the amount of 258,000 against eligible projects identified in the township's development charge background study, which is available on the township's website. So our reserve fund balance at the end of the year, end of 2022, is $634,000, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Glinski.
Mayor Shigear, when we look at these things that we've just finished discussing, and the fact that housing is needed badly in the area, how is this, what we're doing here, improving the situation so that people can go ahead with housing? Most people that are building do not have $1 million sitting in their account, but end up borrowing. And we're just adding to it by doing this. And I know people that are sitting on the fence because they cannot afford the interest. And what I can see, we're not doing anything to help them along the way. That's just my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Clerk, Counselor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm not questioning the work that the Watson and Associates have done. I'm just wondering if there are any places closer than Toronto capable of doing this work.
I believe that's through our procurement process. Again, Director Boylan.
There's basically two consulting firms in the game of doing development charge background studies, one being Watson, the other being Hempson's. Literally all the municipalities use those two, so they kind of have a monopoly on it. The benefit being is that they are well versed in Development Charge Act issues, and if we were to be challenged on some of our charges, they would defend us on our behalf. So that's really the strength of hiring one of those two. I think that's all I have on that.
Thank you for clarifying. Clerk Adams.
That report number FIN 23-9 entitled 2022 Development Charges, Treasurer's Annual Statement received for information.
Mover and seconder, Counselor Lewis. Counselor Leach, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Director Boylan. We'll move to reports from the clerk. Clerk Adams, the first report on the report to public on financial filing compliance, please.
Yes, thank you. This report is a result of a legislative requirement as per the Municipal Elections Act to provide a report to the public after the specified deadlines of the financial filing compliance of candidates from the 2022 election. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
And Clerk Adams, can you comment on, just to confirm that all individuals, all candidates were well aware or were made aware of the requirements?
Yes, through your worship. So essentially there are legislative requirements for myself to let them know, which I don't believe is until January 1st of this year. But emails were sent right after the election, probably about 4 or 5 times to let everyone know of what was required, how to submit, what the deadlines were, and what the consequences of not meeting those deadlines were, as well as letters sent out to those who didn't submit by the original deadline to let them know that they were essentially in default and what the next steps were.
Okay, thank you for confirming that. Questions or comments? If not, the resolution.
That report number clerk 23-4 entitled the Municipal Elections Act Report to Public on Financial Filing Compliance be received for information.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson, Counselor Leach, all in favor? Carried. And you have another report, Clerk Adams?
Yes, so this report is on the records retention schedule update. This report is to update the current records that staff are using, to update the current retention schedule that staff are using to classify township records in order to ensure continued legislative compliance. If there are any questions, I can answer those as well.
Questions or comments? If not, the resolution, please.
The report number clerk 23-03 entitled Record Retention Schedule Update be received, and that bylaw number 23-38 as it prescribes to retention periods for documents and records to be kept be approved.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Wilson, Counselor Glinski, all in favor? Carried. Yes, who knew this is quite a comprehensive responsibility and another piece that's highly regulated. So it's nice to get a glimpse sometimes into how much work goes into the clerk's world. So thank you for making us aware of that. And keeping us organized, yes. Thank you so much. The next report from myself and the CAO regarding our strategic planning process proposed.
Thank you, your worship. So as council may recall through the education and training process, we did receive some training on strategic planning, and through the budgetary process, allocate some funding towards a strategic planning process for guiding council and the community into the next number of years. This was a joint report put together by myself as well as the mayor. So with that, I might let Mayor Giguère take over and present the report.
Thank you. And so as CEO Betteridge indicated, so based on the sessions that we had and the discussions that we had, so we propose a phased-in approach that would allow us to tweak the process. So start with what we know has worked in the past and do a main outreach. And then as the results come in, with a strong commitment on good, solid representation and inclusion, we would continue to tweak the process and add different components to make sure we have really good data that is reliable if we're going to be making long-term, decisions and setting long-term directions. We want to make sure that it's representative data. So that's what you have in the report, is, like I said, is a proposed sort of one phase at a time, and where there's room to adjust each step of the way. And I think through various partnerships and using internal expertise and resources, we should be able to complete this entire process within the budget that we set aside for this really important endeavor. So happy to answer any questions or between the CEO Betteridge and myself. Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I'm I guess I'll say I like the ratchet approach. If the first one doesn't work, then you ratchet up to the second. That doesn't work, you ratchet up to the third. And if things do work and we get enough response, then we don't have to go to extreme measures. And hopefully there will be enough public participation, and it's well, it's sort of amazing what the social media outreach can do. And it's good to, we don't need to go to phase 6 to start. So it's, see how things go. And if we get, I think the public's going to be interested and give input. So I'm hoping it won't require full use of a Johnson bar. Normal ratchet will work.
Thank you for that. And yeah, so the phase-in approach allows for not only the participation and, as you said, if something doesn't work, then you move on and you ratchet up. But also the other is looking at the results and the what is being proposed and what the community wants. Is sometimes, in my experience, you end up with dilemmas where you want to consult further and present those dilemmas and questions to the community. So even though we might have a really good set, like really good participation in phase 1, the next phase is depending on the answers we get, we might need to continue the conversation into phase 3. Exactly. So we'll take it. The suggestion is to take it one step at a time. Any further comments or questions, Councillor Zelinski?
Mayor Giguère, I'm not opposed to getting community input. The only thing that I'm opposed to is seeing this $50,000 maybe being all spent on this. Hopefully, we can not have to ratchet it up to that point, but just go ahead with what we've come up with so far, and also with the input that we have. And if nothing else comes in, maybe just go with what we've got. I hate to see $50,000 spent on this when we should be able to do it ourselves with our own staff and the people that are interested. Thank you.
And that's a good point. And I want to clarify that in this case, the cost, the budget of 50,000 is not 50,000 of consultants. So it's not, so we're trying to be very transparent and acknowledge that it's about, mailing, printing. So sometimes, yeah, you may see other projects where all you see is the price tag for an external consultant. So we know that's important to council, so we're trying to use internal expertise. So the budget will be including, materials and, refreshments at a meeting, which sometimes is not captured in a total budget. But in this case, we want to be fully transparent.
Just as a follow-up, I like the suggestion by Deputy Mayor Widner way back when, that we send out the information to the people with the tax notices, and in this way not have to dip into the 50,000 slush fund. Thank you.
Yes, and so I think we will do that where the timing works. I think for the launch, if we launch in June, that we won't be able to do that, because I think the notices have already been sent out. But I think if there's a need to, if we get to phase 4, phase 5 and around August, and we want to solicit more input, we will definitely coordinate and synchronize with those opportunities. But yeah, we'll definitely make it as efficient as possible, for sure. So, yeah. Any further questions or comments? An exciting process to embark on and, set the direction for the future. That's a great privilege for this council to be working on that and with our staff. So the resolution, please.
That report number CIO 23-08 be prepared by the mayor and CIO and entitled Malahide Township Strategic Planning Process 2023 to 2033 be received, and that council direct the mayor and CIO to proceed accordingly and as detailed in the report with the 2023 to 2033 strategic planning process.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Lewis, Councillor Leach, all in favor? Carried. Next on the agenda, we have reports of committees and outside boards. The first report is from Long Point Region Conservation Authority. Any questions or comments? Clerk Adams, can we have the resolution to receive, or do you want to do them together? Okay, so we also have the ECC Board of Management minutes, as well as a letter from the board regarding a principal statement for reserve accounts. I'm not sure, Director Boylan, did you have any comment, or CO Bedridge, about the suggestion? So I think the way this is being proposed is as a recommendation for each municipality to be setting up reserves in anticipation of capital projects that need to be done. Did you wish to comment?
Yeah, so they're requesting or perhaps suggesting that we set up a separate reserve for just the EECC. We do consider the EECC's 10-year capital plan as part of our 10-year capital plan. So in a sense, we are already looking ahead and budgeting for future capital expenses. But I think if we split off this new EECC capital reserve from our general capital reserve, and council gets a better understanding of our financial capacity, I think that can only be a good thing. So I would support that if that's council's preference.
Great. Oh, Councillor Leach.
To you, Madam Mayor. So does it make sense to leave the reserve or leave funds that are generated by the EECC with the EECC? Or does it make sense to have them come back, parcel off, wait, and then go back?
Director Boylan, did you want to comment? I think that refers to the surplus, I guess, that is paid and then currently is set up to come back.
Yeah, so they do have a reserve that is split 50-50, I think. So they already have that in a sense. I think the question is, should all of the capital funding for the ECC be held in a single reserve on the Elmer side?
With the EECC specifically, not necessarily with Aylmer. Is there a distinction?
It's kind of all the same to me. Like, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on your council's, like, trust and faith in the 10-year plan. Like, how confident are you in the 10-year plan that's brought forward? Are you willing to hand over the money over to Elmer before you really gone through the 10-year plan and are comfortable with it? I think that might be the determining factor.
Thank you for that. No further questions or comments. Clerk Adams, the resolution.
That the following reports of committees and outside boards be noted and filed: Long Point Region Conservation Authority minutes of March 3rd and East Elgin Community Complex Board of Management minutes of April 26, 2023, and board letter principal statements reserve accounts.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Lewis, Councillor Leach, all in favor? Carried. Next is correspondence. There are 7 items. Any comments? Anything to be endorsed? Councillor Glinsky.
Madam Mayor, number 6, about the invasive phragmites, pages 17 and 18. That should, maybe we should support that.
I know. Yes, and I believe the county does have a program, so we're there are efforts locally for sure for Phragmites because it is a problem, but yeah, the more we can do, the better. If there's nothing else, do the resolution.
That correspondence item number 6 be supported and that the remainder be noted and filed.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Glinsky, Councillor Leach, all in favor? Carried. And that brings us to other business. Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I've attended a few meetings and made some, like, a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails regarding East Elgin and its involvement in the attendance review. At first glance, when you look at the London Secondary Panel Attendance Area Review, all the maps are London. Everything's London. Just, and East Elgin is just this, like, there's a couple lines where it's mentioned. Now, I tried to get on to the potential options part of this web page multiple times today. What I got back was web page has crashed. Then when I got home tonight and tried it, they had completely changed the east and west borders of their option 2. And apparently the administration is saying, no, we're not closing East Elgin. Well, I don't think anyone's saying they're closing East Elgin. The problem is it's a slow bleed. So the initial maps, and if anyone would like copies of the screenshots, I have what they are or what they were. They're no longer on Thames Valley website, but it's just a glimpse into what they're planning and what might be coming down the pipe. And I think people should be aware of what might be coming. And yeah, maybe we're getting a little excited about it. Too bad. I'm not going to stand by and watch rural schools get picked off by a London-centric school board. So on the initial eastern edge of East Elgin's catchment, they had Eden and Stratfordville cut out to go to Glendale. And on the western side of things, they had Port Bruce cut out, not all of Copenhagen, just a subdivision, Orwell, Kings Mills Corner, where all specifically drawn out around where all the houses are. Now it's all been removed. It's not on the site anymore. But that is what they did have on their site. So they're saying it's not going to happen. I would like to take them at their word, except that doesn't mean much to me. And regardless of whether they've changed their eastern and western borders, the northern border is still the main concern. Because when you take the village of Belmont out of sending students to East Elgin, you have a huge number of students that are no longer filling East Elgin. And when those students aren't there, you have decreased enrollment. That means decreased teaching staff, decreased programming, decreased grants for their strong tech program that East Elgin has, decrease in the sports competitiveness and the number of teams that are at the school, because with fewer students, there's less options. And what does that have to do with the mental health of people that see their school getting smaller and smaller and smaller by design, by adjustments of boundaries, by adjustments of feeder schools, and they just keep picking off the students until Elmer ends up like Norwich, which no longer has a high school. So I don't want to see the Thames Valley Board using our township students as pawns in a game so they can adjust London school boundaries. And basically what I get out of what I see that what they're going to, well, what I'm trying to head off from happening is we're going to send students to Parkside. We're going to send students to Lord Dorchester. We're going to send students to Glendale. We're going to overstuff these schools. What their proposal right now is that 2024-25, East Elgin will be down to 86%, Lord Dorchester up to 110. And then by 28-29, East Elgin will be at 76%, while Lord Dorchester will be at 126%. So for some simple math, 125 minus 25 equals 100. And 75 plus 25 equals 100. So you want to overstuff and understuff to manipulate stuff so that you can get a new school in St. Thomas, a new school in Tillsonburg, a new school in Dorchester, and screw Elmer. Well, I'm not going to let that happen. They're telling us it's not going to happen. But my past experience
Councillor
with
Wilson, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up since we're discussing the business of the corporation of the township.
okay,
So I'd appreciate, is there any final comment?
well, I guess there's in the inception of the
to be
Thames Valley
continued.
School
Yeah.
Board, it was combination of Elgin County, Oxford County, Middlesex County, City of London. And initially it was. But through the years, since Elgin County School Board doesn't exist and Oxford County School Board doesn't exist, in Elgin County, there used to be Mike Sarita, Rick Murray. They were top level administrators from Elgin County. Now there are this many senior level administrators in Thames Valley from Elgin and 0 from Oxford County as well. And the concerns and needs of places outside of London are not being represented because the people that are giving the board the reports are not from the communities that they serve.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I can appreciate your passion and the concern for the impact on our constituents. Who knew when people elected you, they got both a 2-for-1. They got a account. Sorry, is your microphone on?
No, sorry.
Sorry, that creates an echo. So being elected, people got a 2-for-1. You got a counselor and a trustee. So I think this is a file worth following. So I encourage all of our constituents to pay attention, stay engaged, contact your trustees. I trust you're also expressing your concerns to our trustees who are in charge of expressing those concerns. So we'll leave it at that for this evening. Thank you. Any other business? Councillor Glinski.
Madam Mayor, just one that you're already aware of. I had a call from somebody on Temperance Line, a resident, and they are anything but happy with our different suggestions and what we suggested to do. They do not, or should I say, they hate gravel almost as much as I do when it's on a road, because I used to live on a gravel road. And I can remember Colton Line being a gravel road. I can remember Vienna Line being a gravel road where you'd have to get to a paved area at Mount Salem or wherever with a tractor because you couldn't get through the bloody road because it was gravel and it turned to mud in the spring. And with the rain we had this year, would have been a prime time for something like that to happen. As a matter of fact, they also said, comparatively speaking, they would almost prefer to put up with the potholes than have to put up with gravel. And gravel and the dust that goes with it. And then I can't do anything but support them in their wishes. Thank you.
I'm looking to staff in terms of, I don't have with me who moved and seconded that motion. And is it your intent, Councillor Glinski, to have a notice of motion to reconsider? Or do you want staff to, we can look into a follow-up?
I would like to see a follow-up from staff, and maybe the follow-up would go in a different direction than what we're going in right now. And I think staff knows which direction I'm supporting. Thank you.
CEO Betteridge, just a follow-up perhaps from staff with some consultation with the residents?
Yes, through your worship, that can be achieved.
Thank you for that. Other business? Seeing none, can we move to bylaws?
That the following bylaws be considered read a first, second, and third times and properly signed and sealed. Bylaw number 23-25 for the Robinson Drain and bylaw number 23-38, the records retention update.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Leach, all in favor? Carried. So we're ready to move into closed session. May I have a resolution?
The council move into closed session at 9:05 PM pursuant to section 239(2)(e). Consideration will be given to items pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board relating to an Ontario Land Tribunal appeal.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis, Counselor Leach, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you.
And council provided staff direction regarding litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality relating to an Ontario Land Tribunal appeal.
And that staff will proceed as directed.
Yeah, so that council provided staff direction regarding.
Okay. Mover and seconder. Counselor Leach, Counselor Wilson, all in favor? Carried. That's my agenda. We moved out of closed session, so confirmatory bylaw.
That bylaw number 23-39 being a confirmatory bylaw be given first, second, and third readings and be properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis, Counselor Wilson, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And finally, motion to adjourn.
That council adjourn its meeting at 9:42 PM to meet again on May 18th, 2023 at 7:30 PM.
Mover and seconder. We do not have the deputy mayor. I don't think we can adjourn. Who will have the honor? Counselor Lewis? Okay. Counselor Glinski, all in favor? Carried. Have a good evening, everyone.